with it. We're on a different plane than the world. The world, again, is a woeful place. And of course the vials eventually are poured out in this fall of Adam across time, like the woes are resounding themselves across time. Never stops. Oh, it never stops. Sometimes, throughout history, the woes are so felt that people cannot cope anymore. Huge amounts of people. The woes of war. Awful things. The vileness and the woe of war and of people standing around graves. And woe is me, I'm undone. Woe. There's a man, there's a daughter, there's a father, 6 foot under. What a woeful scene. Do you know, when we touch woefulness ourselves, it is not like the world suffers woefulness, because we have hope. When the world suffers bitterness, it is bitter. We have hope when we go through the bitterness. The bitterness that strikes the soul. In Isaiah, we read in Isaiah 38:15, for instance, what shall we say? Right. What shall I say? He hath both spoken unto me, and himself hath done it. I shall go softly, all my years in the bitterness of my soul. O Lord, by these things men live, and in all these things is the life of my spirit. So wilt thou recover me and make me to live. The bitterness of the soul. Christ suffered the bitterness of the soul on Calvary. But you see, it is not an everlasting bitterness. It is a fleeting bitterness. The bitterness of this world and the woefulness of this world, the sadness of this world. As human beings, we suffer these things equally. And yet it is only transient. It passes. It passes. We do not live physically in a paradise. We suffer like others. We mourn like others. We get troubled like others. Because we're human beings. And yet, because we have hope, because we are justified, we can look to an end of these things and know that we are assured that we are a different people. Our end is not destruction. The bitterness is not going to be a part of our destruction. The sadness of this world and the anger that we feel against this world because of its wickedness shall not be our ultimate destruction. These things are passing. These things affect this flesh, blood, bones, tissue. They pass. And this corruption shall put on incorruption one day. Incorruption in the twinkling of an eye. And by understanding the scriptures and the condemnation that comes through the scriptures, through Adam as the central head of the fall, the first Adam, we see and we look out and we see why things are. We're no longer ignorant, as the world is ignorant. Tries to understand why certain things are. We understand why certain things are because of the fall. We see why man's understanding is darkened in such degrees, and why it shall remain that way. The illuminating of the mind is only partial. And of course the warmth of academia is only temporary. And we'll leave it at that. And we've waffled on far too much. But again, this chapter is referring back again and again and again to the fall of what should proceed out of the fall, and what we see as having indeed come out of the fall and shall continue even as the angels continue to sound out of the fall. As they sounded out of the fall, so it goes across, their sound goes across throughout the whole earth, from the beginning of the fall until the end of time. They're not static. Their cries are still crying. The angel in the midst of heaven, where the conscience lies, is still crying, reverence God, fear God. Fear God. He's still crying. Because the voice once pronounced from these angels, the trumpeting of these angels, does not cease. It cannot cease. They've sounded. And their voice continues, the echoes, as though they were still standing there voicing it. They have voiced it, and it continues to be heard to the end of time. Just as condemnation was voiced in the fall of Adam, and that condemnation is still being voiced to the end of time. Just as justification from out of eternity was voiced in eternity through time until the end of time. Their voice has gone out throughout the world.